Hey everybody, this is Ben Kesnoka, co-founder and partner at Village Global, a network-driven venture firm. And this is our podcast, where we go deep on all things business and technology with world-leading experts.
Hello, everybody. I'm Olga Sergeyevich, the head of investor relations at Village Global. Pleased to introduce our guest today, Lee Hnetinka. Lee is a founder and CEO of two of our portfolio companies, Future and Darkstore. Both companies are building innovative solutions for offline and online retail. And Lee and his companies have worked with the world's most admired brands like Nike, Adidas, and Disney, where they enable same-day and one-hour delivery for customers nationwide. And they also collaborated with companies like Snapchat, Shopify, and Stripe to enable next-generation payments and loyalty program solutions. In today's conversation, we'll discuss the state of e-commerce, loyalty programs, fast delivery, and consumer trends. Lee, welcome to Village Global Stories.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the broader trends in retail. Decline of the mall, shutdown of physical stores in many locations, particularly well publicized have been some of the San Francisco retail departures. While the city certainly has a lot of the local issues, how do you think about these events through the prism of macro trends in retail and e-commerce?
I think that if you zoom out more than retail, what cities look like in a decade or even a century are going to be completely different than what they look like today. And so retail is a main artery of a city. And if you think about every piece of it, you have grocery, you have optical, you have pharmaceutical, you have, you used to, and you still do, bookstores and electronic stores, and cities will transform the type of commerce that enables the civilization and for merchants and consumers to interact with. And the reason that physical retail started a long time ago is when there were ateliers that made clothing for men and women, and now there's fast fashion and ready to wear. And so when you think about that trajectory, you think about, well, those things no longer need to exist. So what will occupy cities? And so as you see this transformation, and we're in the Bay Area, I'm in Palo Alto, you're in San Francisco, you're definitely more in the eye of the storm, so to say. The retail that will be there, that will become, in my opinion, is where a store is an experience, and where you can't get that same product or that same relationship online. One company that does this, incredibly well, and they don't even think of themselves as a company, but Brunello Cucinelli. You walk into the store, they make you a cocktail. They really sit you down. They start to understand your mentality. What are you optimizing for? And there is a level of premium experience that you have there. And that is why you're going to go into that store. You can easily buy the same, clothing online, a sweater from them. And so when we think about it from that lens, I know that Sephora is rolling out stores where they want to become your personal, beauty consultant. And so that's where you start to see this experience. It's not experiential, it's an experience, and something that you can't have online. And so that's where I think you'll start to see retail go, and the ones that do it really well will be the ones that continue to exist.
And your current company, Future, is working on better solutions for merchants in the payments and customer engagement space. Tell us more about the history of rewards programs and why is there an opportunity to disrupt now?
Wow, that's a very official way of describing the sector that we are focusing on. Well, a long time ago, about 100 years ago, the way that loyalty existed was actually in stamps. You would go into a store, you would get a stamp, and the more stamps you had, they knew you were this customer that was loyal to them. And over time, that's transformed into points and tiers that you pay. So now, for a long time, American Express has had an incredible quote unquote loyalty program. But for an American Express card, you have the green one, which is free, the gold one, which is like X amount, the platinum one, which is Y amount, and then the Centurion one. And that one you need to even be invited into. But you pay, and American Express is it's more now. I think it's like $6.95 for the platinum before you get a single point reward or benefit. But what you're paying for is status, and status is actually access. And if you completely look at it from another end of the spectrum, Amazon Prime is a loyalty program, okay? And you pay for it, okay? And what you're paying for is access to fast shipping. And so where I think that you will see quote unquote loyalty, and I don't love that word, is go from freemium into paid. And today's consumer is willing to pay for access. They're willing to pay for a better experience. If you travel, publicly, you have Clear and TSA PreCheck. People want to spend their time more wisely, and so I think that every single loyalty program out there that is earned and free, you will start to see a tiered paid version that has only specific benefits that you can access with it, and that's what we're doing with the future.
And presumably for brands, it's not as simple as saying, hey, customers, start paying me now for access to, what I do. So as a brand, what do you need to know about your customer to know that you are ready to launch one of these programs? How do you think about pricing it? And, presumably when you choose which partners you work with, like those are some of the considerations, because you want to make sure that you're enabling that type of capability for someone who has the right audience and sort of correctly structured program.
Well, this isn't for everyone. And that's obviously a derivative of loyalty, which is, loyalty and memberships and access and status is not for everyone. It segregates folks into different cohorts. And so if you are of a brand where you do have a customer base that desires your product, okay, and LVMH does this incredibly well across their 75 maisons. They don't focus on profits, they focus on creating desire. And so if you have something that your customers desire, well, then either you treat them all equally, or there are ones that are, and this is pretty standard e-commerce cohorting, which is you have this cohort, which is your highest LTV cohort. And that is where I think if you actually look at the data and look deeply, you will very quickly be able to establish how big it is, how much it equates in terms of your overall top line and revenue and profit. And I think that that's where merchants will start to see monetization in the ability to do that. And so yeah, it's a science and an art, but I think that there are companies that have very loyal customers, and you'll see more paid tiers within them.
And so it's interesting that you linked some of these programs to the notion of status versus others to the notion of convenience. Are there other sort of categories that you think about when you think about these types of programs? And is there anything sort of interesting in how maybe different countries or different age cohorts think about, what constitutes status, some of the trends that maybe we see with different brands being able to launch these programs in one cohort, which could be surprising for another cohort?
Well, when I say status, I'm just actually encompassing what a cohort may mean to a brand, and your highest, most valuable tier. What you're ultimately giving them is convenience. So one of the best benefits of the Centurion card is a airport butler. When you're traveling and you get to the airport, they pick you up in the golf cart and you roll through it, and that's convenience. And so when I say status, what I mean is, how do we make your life more delightful? How do we make your life easier? And easier ultimately equates to more conveniently. And so that's what I mean.
Got it. Makes sense.
Okay.
And presumably it's a little bit different from, access to Amazon, right?
Yeah.
Where you just have delivery, but it's fairly widely adopted. It's a different price point, it's a different perk.
I think if you look at something like Amazon Prime, everyone has the same status and everyone pays the same amount. I think that you will start to see, them tiered out into an Amazon Prime Gold and Platinum, and Hyperion is actually taller than Centurion. Those are trees. But I think that when we talk about convenience, that ultimately is what you are getting at the end of the day, if you really distill it down to its essence. And you mentioned, how do I view this globally? I recently went to Israel and India and France, and being able to travel in the way that I did so seamlessly, it was all public, air travel, was because of the status I had. It made my life more convenient. I needed to sleep in an airline lounge, like all these things. And so I think that, that is something, as you travel more and earn more and pay more, you're really paying for convenience.
Makes sense. And one of the key developments that enabled the growth of e-commerce was fast delivery. You were the person who made the 1-hour button on Nike.com happen. And your earlier company, Darkstore, and its consumer-facing brand, FastAF, were based on fast delivery. Tell us a little bit about building in the fast delivery space. What are some of your insights and advice to founders for whom it might be relevant?
Well, I've spent the last decade of my life focused on instant delivery. And we first started from delivering from stores. And so using stores as the quote unquote warehouse or fulfillment center. And what we found is the inventory management of stores is non-existent, or there's not much visibility into it. And so, if you ever order on Instacart and you ask for, mozzarella cheese and they give you ricotta, it's because they don't have insight into how many are left, and it's run on a totally separate system than an e-commerce system is run on. And so the challenges there, one are you also have to go to many different places when you're picking up from stores. And so you don't get the economies of scale when you can fulfill 10 different brands from a single location. So the successor to delivering from stores was delivering from what is a phenomenon that was pioneered in the UK with a grocer called Sainsbury's. They called a dark store. And a dark store is exactly as it sounds. It's not ominous at all. It is a literal store that is not open to the public. It's called a dark store. And they're normally in low rent real estate areas. And JD.com is actually the one who really, scaled the modality that we took with Darkstore in the US, which is, let's take the little corner store and turn it into a quote unquote dark store, meaning like we're not building the MFC, the micro fulfillment center. We are taking existing stores that have excess capacity in them and connecting them on a network and seeing, oh, this node has X capacity. We have a brand that wants to put this much inventory in that city. Okay, let's put it in that node. And so there are many ways in which we tried to scale this quickly. One being very early on, we were in deep discussions with Office Depot. So fascinating stat, out of their, I think they had back then, it was like 1,300 locations. They have one within 5 miles of 90% of the population. Okay. So many nodes, a dying business model. So not many folks are walking into office supply stores anymore. They just get it on Amazon. And so they even had stores that were just completely dark, no inventory in them. Some that were operating, but like, half empty, and the store associates not having much to do during the day. Another merchant that we had early discussions with was Mattress Firm. So fascinating stat: 3 people walk into a mattress store on average a day. So like the mattress salesman is clearly have a lot of downtime. The one we ended up going with, which is just by pure coincidence, and I think such a beautiful story, is a company called Iron Mountain. Iron Mountain is a document storage company, and they have both a dying but thriving business. So there's a just genius head of innovation there, who early on saw like, hey, our business is storing paper, and paper is going into the cloud. And so if our business is storing paper and our other business is shredding paper, well, we're going to eventually shred all the paper that's in our vaults, these buildings. And so then we're just going to have space. And then they have this last mile trucking system, because they go pick up all the documents. And so they actually have an incredible last mile delivery supply chain as their business. And so, we had a conversation, and, where they were, initially storing documents, we started to put Nike sneakers, we started to put mattresses in a box, and we eventually put phones. And so, if you ever lose or break your phone and you're on Verizon today, in 40 cities, you can get one in an hour, and it comes out of the buildings that we stood up.
And so then it seems that the company that owned the stores essentially ends up being a commercial real estate land or property owner, and then they will just lease it to somebody like Darkstore, who will then enable some of the partnerships and monetization of that space. Or is there something additional to it?
So we have 2 parts to our business. One part is purely leveraging existing capacity and putting our technology over that existing capacity. So wherever you want to put inventory, we have a node, and that node is not our node and operated by us. It's operated by someone in our network who uses our technology to do the fulfillment. And then our APIs connect to every last mile provider. So if you want to do 1 hour, or we're actually working on faster than that, something I can't talk about. But we also have our own nodes. And so, having worked with Nike, I actually learned a lot of the challenges that these organizations have that are traditionally, back then they were doing 30 billion. And so, but X% of that is wholesale. So selling through Foot Locker and Finish Line. And so when Mark was CEO of the company, he wanted to divert a large portion of the revenue to direct, so Nike.com, and take it out of wholesale. And moving an organization like that, who's been operating for many, many decades in a way that was normally through channel and now direct, you're building new muscles. And we were a tiny startup when we met them, punching way above our weight, and they took a bet on us. But I took a step back and I said, wow, if it takes us another year to get our next customer live, we're going to be out of business before we do it. And so I inspired the board to launch a consumer-facing app that would completely remove any of the impediments to getting live, which is integration, because integration with ERPs and e-commerce systems, they're not built for instant delivery. And the reason is because with instant delivery, you need to merchandise on a zip code level. You need to merchandise on a hyper geo basis, and warehouse management systems need to be able to understand literal load balancing inventory from one node to another. And so all of that, and we don't need to get into the inner workings of a micro fulfillment system, but we basically were like, hey, if we remove all the impediments, we can get live these merchants who want to get live with instant delivery faster. And so we always had this, like, it was a North Star for us. It was called FastAF, and that was, how we operated. And so we ended up naming the product FastAF. And overnight we had 600 merchants that our focus, there are many other instant delivery companies, but our focus is on high quality premium essentials. And so we have the best shampoo, the best skin lotion, the best beauty products. All of our customers are women who care a lot about the products that they use. And so our products are, whether they're, woman owned or organic or gluten-free, whatever it be. That's really the segment of customer demographic that we speak to. And so doing that allowed us to get live faster with many more brands overnight. So that is kind of the arc of Darkstore and FastAF, and kind of how you usurp all the inner bureaucracy of a large company who wants to launch fast delivery but can't get out of their own way.
So I'm a huge fan of FastAF, both the name and the company, and I've discovered a lot of cool products through Fast, including all sorts of actually delicious kale chips, then no bake cake, and lots of other products. And it's I love giving gifts. Sometimes it's challenging to pick a gift, but if you just need something casual and fast, there's lots of great ideas there. So that was one of the use cases that I found Fast to be awesome for. So talk to us a little bit about that element of curation. So, you mentioned some of the brands are women owned. There's a lot of vegan, organic, etc. products, but what's key to successful curation? How do you enable that? And then maybe just broadly, what are some of the consumer trends that you see playing out today?
Well, when you walk into any retailer, and I will put CVS as a retailer, I will put Whole Foods as a retailer, I will put Bergdorf Goodman as a retailer. These are curated stores, okay? And the sector that we were focusing on is the products that you would find in a convenience store, but not the products that exist in the convenience store in your neighborhood. So the shampoos, the toothpaste, the lotions, the many things that you may find, but from brands that were started online, these digitally native brands that leveraged nationwide shipping, and in order to really crack replacing the incumbent, needed to crack getting the ability to offer their product at the same speed that their competitor or the incumbent offers it at. And that is our sweet spot. So curation, we spent a lot of time early on thinking about core values. And what are the core values of our customers, of our brands? And oh my God, one of the funnest things that we do as part of our job is we get to test out products. So we get lots of samples, and some of them are just like, woo, like what is this flavor? But you have to not just think about it for yourself, but think about it for multiple constituents that shop. And so then you take a bet on there's different grading that we have, but you take a bet on a core flavor, and then secondary and tertiary flavors. But then the data speaks for itself, and so you look at what are the turns of this flavor, this SKU, and then you just in a dark store. Because FastAF is the consumer facing part of it, but it leverages Darkstore's technology and micro fulfillment centers. This is like a Porsche Frunk. Okay. Like Amazon is like a pickup truck with a lot of, like a box truck, And FastAF is like a Porsche frunk. We only have a limited amount of space in this dark store. So we need to be really discerning and picky about it. And so if that SKU isn't moving at the speed that we have as our benchmark, we're not keeping it. And we're replacing it with another SKU. And so over time, the curation starts to curate itself. And, we've got some AI that we use to really kind of see a few things. One is like, what do we think that the consumer wants, but doesn't know yet that they want? So that was what you're talking about, where we introduced a lot of new brands, ones that you've never heard of before, to customers. That is what we are known for. And the other thing we became known for is gifting. And so because of the premium nature of these products, they end up becoming great housewarming gifts and great, baby shower or birthday gifts. And we even have the ability, we even write you a note. But something that we are known for is you open the app and you are delighted. And you're delighted with products that you didn't even know exist, brands you didn't even know exist. And I don't know, I feel like maybe we should license that AI to Netflix, because I need to have movies better recommended to me. But yeah, that the curation is that's a core competency that
the curation and FastAF certainly worked better than Netflix.
It's epic, and people rave about it. So.
But then, one thing that's interesting about your capabilities is that you have a lot of data to show what consumers actually like and what they come back to buy more of. And I feel like, in the last few years, we are now hearing about lots of, features which maybe 5-10 years ago were not a part of the discussion. For example, you hear a lot of thoughts that younger generations really care about sustainable packaging or everything being organic or, free of animal cruelty and testing and things like that. What are some of the insights from data around some of these features? What actually does play a role, where maybe there's not enough data, and also give us some of the surprising examples of products that you never expected to do well, but they were just wonderful, or something that sort of didn't work out for whatever reason.
So the nature of instant delivery is you need enough of a population in a geo that can buy the products to make that dark store profitable. So when we think about the business, you can't look at the unit economics across the US. You need to look at the unit economics on a literal building basis. And that building needs to be able to get profitable on its own. Otherwise, you're just burning cash. And so if you get too esoteric and you go too down this road of we only have, animal free, paraben free, all of these things, then you shrink the total the serviceable addressable market. And so we don't go too far down the path. Although we do have these reusable bags, of which I was walking actually down University yesterday or the day before, and I just saw a FastAF bag. This makes me smile. And it was crazy. They're now global. We've seen people in Tel Aviv and other places that love the FastAF bag. It was an early marketing tactic. And so I think we stay enough at a high level where we have an addressable market, especially in our core markets, that we can get the buildings profitable. And we actually have launched nationwide shipping. We've actually taken off the fast delivery to get the business profitable. That was something if you looked at, there was this explosion and implosion of fast delivery. Either you went out of business or you got profitable. And the way that you can get profitable is you shrink the number of nodes you have. You shrink the things that are burning cash, and you grow the things that grow revenue. And so we opened up the app, and sure, now we serve the entire US. And you asked the thing that I feel is surprising. At one point, we were selling ice cream, and I just think that like the data on ice cream is like people will spend more money to get ice cream quickly, especially if it's of a specific flavor. And so it's just a fascinating product that who doesn't love ice cream?
Indeed. Were there any sort of interesting flavors that were super popular? Or
there was this
chocolate
truffle flavored ice cream that like is dangerous. And so I will send you a pint of it after. And there's a few things. Anything truffle, you fly it off the shelf. So there's these truffle chips, truffle ice cream, and like those two products like are dangerous.
Excellent. Well, now we know a secret to a successful brand. Just add truffle to it. I feel like that's going to be the next thing in skincare. But that totally makes sense. So maybe another question, as you started and are currently running two companies, which are in sort of adjacent categories, but these are two different companies. So talk to us a little bit about, some of the challenges and pros and cons of being a founder of two, running two at the same time. How do you just manage your time and attention? And what are some of the trade-offs?
Well, I actually run three, and the third one is myself. And you really need to think of yourself as a company, because you can start to get immersed real deep, real fast in your day-to-day. And so actually the thing about running multiple companies is when you take a step back, you really start to be more thoughtful about your time, how much you're spending on something, and actually how much time you need to spend on something. And so the way that I'm able to do it is I've got a really great teams around me. And if you've got really great teams and people you can trust, you can move fast, delegate decisions, and then surface up decisions that you want to be involved in making, and ones that are irreversible. And so if these are reversible decisions, we make them really quickly, we can reverse the decision, and I don't need to be a part of it. But if it's core and it's something that's irreversible, then I'm in the decision-making of it. And, we've got a great framework that we use. I'm spending a day here, or I'm spending a day with this company. And so that's really how it all works. And actually the best part of it, and this is a bit more personal side of me, is I'm big on meditation. And actually one of the things that I truly believe is to think is to not think. If you really want to think about something, how many times have you actually gotten a breakthrough actually thinking about it? And so the way to think is to actually not think about the thing that you want to think about. That's when you go for a hike, your mind is actually removed from that thought. And you're like, whoa, I've got this revelation. And actually running two companies, it literally, the context switching is heavy load. Like it's a heavy load on, and so you have to minimize context switching as much as possible. But it actually, like, I'll be like, at working on this problem at this company, and then I'm like, oh, that's a solution over there. And I've like really just kind of like become a better leader and CEO because of running both. And so I wouldn't recommend it. Like if you want to like dedicate your life to like a family and like not run at a million miles an hour, then running multiple companies is not the thing to do. But if you truly want to do your life's work, and for me, a lot of what I do is be the change that I want to see and put into our humanity, the thing that I want to give back to our species. That's what drives me. That's what my purpose is. And so I love what I do. I run both companies and then myself. And as part of running both of them, it's mainly about doing great work and putting ourselves out there as a gift to humanity.
So this is a perfect segue into the topic that I wanted to finish on. One of the things you are passionate about is personal development and transformational experiences. You mentioned meditation. And I know you recently spent some time in an ashram in India. So at risk of appearing spiritually ignorant, let me ask some of these very basic questions for those in the audience who are curious about these types of things. How does one pick the right ashram when you go? Like, what happens there? What can you expect from that experience? How to make the most of it? And any other insights from your recent journey?
Well, I think that, those who are spiritual, those who do meditate, and those who want to meditate, a journey of 1,000 steps starts with one. And you're going to start somewhere. You may start today. I started mine 10 years ago. And it was literally taking steps. I was literally hiking in Woodstock. And at the bottom of the mountain, there is a monastery. And what are the odds that you're hiking and you see this monastery? And we were curious, and we went, and it was like, oh, I was a Tibetan monastery. And during a difficult period in my life, I needed something to ground me, and I needed something to really understand and think through this adversity. And so that's when I started to get interested in Zazen, which is a Buddhist form of meditation. And that was the modality for a while. And I've tried others, but really that's the one I've kept coming back to. But there's other things that I've looked at and just have come into my life serendipitously, Ram Dass and others that have really took me on a journey into what ultimately this year has led to an ashram in India. And I would say there's no way I can prescribe or tell someone how to get to a specific ashram. All I can say is you need to believe in something, whatever you want to believe in. But fate will ultimately drive you in the right place if you do believe. And, for me, I've always wanted to go to this ashram, and it's been, I probably should have done it 10 years ago. Actually, if I look back at my journey when I was starting my first company, I probably should have done it, because the clarity, the transformation that you have at a place like an ashram is something that really is a constitutional part of your DNA. It becomes part of it. So I wanted to say that was my experience, and I'm just really lucky to have the opportunity to have gone there.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much for your insights across so many different topics. It was wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to the Village Global podcast. You can check us out online at villageglobal.vc. We'd love to hear from you, your feedback, your ideas, your inspirations. You can email us at hello@villageglobal.vc.